Arizona has been experiencing challenges with losing a critical resource, water. But while the state's residents have been facing restrictions and increased prices for water, countries like Saudi Arabia have been pulling as much of this limited resource as they want to irrigate crops that they've been sending back to their country. This video is sponsored by SimpliSafe. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. In this video, we're going to delve into the critical issue of foreign ownership of U.S. farmland and its implications for our nation's food security. I'm going to answer questions about how bad of a problem it is right now, how bad it could get, why it's happening, what's being done about it, and most importantly, what you should be doing. If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. Now, food is a cornerstone of preparedness, regardless of whether you're just starting out on your prepping journey or you've been doing it for your whole life. Anytime we see an issue potentially impacting our food supply, we're going to research it and bring it to your attention. Now, utilizing our nation's farmland solely to benefit foreign countries is one of those essential stories that we have to delve deeper into. So let's explore this a little more. You may have heard the news that Arizona recently revoked the groundwater leases of a Saudi-owned farm, Fundamente, which has been criticized for pumping unlimited water to grow alfalfa. Now, the Saudi-owned farm is about 3,500 acres in the rugged desert area west of Phoenix. And it's also an ecological nightmare for its excessive use of critically low water resources that have been pumped free of charge and limitlessly amidst a drought. The alfalfa grown there is exported to Saudi Arabia to feed dairy cows despite the growing water crisis in Arizona. And the Saudis have turned to America farmland because the Saudi government banned the cultivation of water-intensive crops like alfalfa within its borders in 2018 to relieve pressure on the kingdom's water resources. And this motivated Fundamente's operations in Arizona. However, public outrage grew as the farm tapped into the Arizona's groundwater for free. Even as nearby wells, they ran dry and new home construction was put on hold because of water restrictions. And specifically, the state halted new housing developments that rely on groundwater in the Phoenix area because of the dwindling water supplies. How much alfalfa is grown here and exported to Saudi Arabia and China may surprise you. In 2023, the United States exported 431,000 metric tons of alfalfa hay to Saudi Arabia. And this was the second largest market for U.S. alfalfa hay exports after China, which received 800,000 metric tons. And to be clear, I'm not against exporting to other countries. Exporting our excess to other countries is vital to the health of our own economy. 79% of the walnut, 76% of the cotton, 55% of rice, 46% of wheat, 21% of pork, 21% of corn, and even 10% of the beef produced in America is sold and exported overseas. China is by far the largest buyer at almost $33 billion annually. And that's fine. America is a land of abundance. But the problem is when limited water resources are used limitlessly, depriving people of housing and farming intended or needed for U.S. consumption. Now, some of that exporting of alfalfa occurred while hay levels were critically low, which directly impacts herd size decisions. For example, the Smokehouse Creek fire significantly impacted hay production. Now, the fire, which burned over 1 million acres in the Texas Panhandle, destroyed large stocks of hay and feed. This has created a challenging situation for ranchers and farmers in the region who are now facing shortages and increased costs for hay and other feed resources. Now, the surrounding community rallied to support those affected with hay and feed donations, but the long-term effects of hay production and overall agricultural output in the region will likely be felt for years to come. Now, many ranchers have had to decide to reduce their herd sizes. It has forced many to make difficult choices about their livestock, including selling off parts of their herds to manage the reduced availability of feed and pasture land. So high prices and reduced availability of beef in our food supply are, at least in one small way, also a factor in the alfalfa produced here and exported to foreign countries. We probably wouldn't have known about this trend of foreign countries farming America for their exclusive benefit if Arizona was not in a drought that has extended more than 2 decades. Now, the state has been in a prolonged drought since the late 1990s, with the Colorado River, a critical water source for Arizona and other southwestern states, seeing significant reductions in water levels. Recently, we've also become aware of the amount of farmland being purchased, sometimes by countries that also seek the destruction of America, were it not for some pretty large purchases of farmland by China near our military bases. China's purchase of farmland near U.S. military bases has recently raised national security concerns. Several high-profile acquisitions, including in Texas and North Dakota, they have led to fears that these purchases could enable espionage or sabotage. In response, some states have introduced or passed legislation restricting foreign ownership of land near sensitive sites. And the federal government has also scrutinized such transactions more closely through the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. Now, additionally, lawmakers have proposed federal measures to block foreign entities, especially from adversarial nations, from buying land near U.S. military facilities. After all, why would we let countries bent on our destruction reap the benefits of our fertile farmlands? Thanks to SimpliSafe for sponsoring this video. I recently purchased a piece of property, and one of my first priorities was installing not only a security system, but one that was 24/7 professionally monitored. Now, I'm recording this video on September the 26th, and 2 days ago, I had someone checking out my property at night while I was not there. As you can see from the footage, he was looking in a window, and as soon as the camera turned on, he looked up, saw it, covered his face, and ran away. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but it's a reminder that security is your responsibility. Now, additionally, I was able to download the footage from the SimpliSafe app and share it with my neighbors. They have since circulated the video to others in our area, and we've also sent it to our sheriff. Turns out several other people saw him recently wandering the streets in our area, so we're able to use footage like this to piece things together about his activities. Now, I bought SimpliSafe's equipment, I install it myself, and purchased their 24/7 monitoring, which does not require a contract. I've also installed their exterior wireless cameras, which allows me to monitor the property remotely, along with their base interior cameras, door sensors, motion sensors, door keypad, water monitors, and other equipment. I'm covered. They've also rolled out a smart alarm indoor camera, allowing their agents to speak to intruders in real time. And with their new Fast Protect monitoring and LiveGuard protection, SimpliSafe agents can act within 5 seconds of receiving your alarm. For me, it's just given me peace of mind that my investment is protected when I'm not there. Save 50% on your system, plus a free indoor security camera, and your first month is free when you sign up for Core Monitoring. Visit simplisafe.com/cityprepping to customize yours. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. And it's not just the so-called allies of convenience like Saudi Arabia who seek America's fertile soil and water resources. And it's not just China that wants to farm us while they conduct espionage operations, cyber attacks, and plot our downfall. Adversarial nations, as defined by the U.S. Department of State, include Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Russia, and Venezuela under the Maduro regime. Together, investors from these countries own about 95,000 acres of United States farmland. Look, I don't want you to think that that's a lot when we look at the totality of our farmland. It represents really a small fraction, just 0.007% of the total farmland in the United States. But still, it does raise many concerns when adversarial, even hostile nations use up water resources and farmer land, especially near our towns and military installations. Venezuela investors under the socialist ruler Maduro hold the majority of land owned by adversarial nations with about 90,000 acres across 17 states, including 43,500 acres in Florida and 21,000 acres in Montana. Now, Iran-based investors own 4,300 acres across 13 states, while Cuban investors hold about 858 acres in 3 states in Puerto Rico. Russian investors, they only own a paltry 73 acres in 4 states. Unfortunately, though it is an adversarial nation, no land is reported under North Korean ownership. Now, beyond adversarial nations that would do us harm, our closest allies hold even more farmland. Of the 13 million acres of foreign-owned U.S. farmland, Canadian investors own the largest share of foreign-held agriculture and non-agricultural land in the United States, with 32%, or 14.2 million acres. Investors from the Netherlands, Italy, and the United Kingdom and Germany collectively hold 29%. Again, 13 million acres sounds like a lot, but it represents 1.48% of the total farmland. And it's not cause for panic, but it is cause for a growing concern. Now, we frequently warn people that when so many farms are owned by multinational corporations and big mega agri-corporations, the food grown here, even during times of disaster, shortages, droughts, or significant crop failures, is not guaranteed to stay here. And when the agricultural land of the other countries suffers, they're going to pay more than U.S. manufacturers and food processors, so the food flows to the highest bidder. We saw that with the natural gas resources going to Europe with the start of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and we're likely going to see that as China and India's farmland continues to suffer in the coming years. Despite President Xi's assertion that China's dependence on imported food is a national security concern, China's importation trend will likely accelerate as their farmable land suffers from significant loss and degradation. Now, since taking office in 2013, Xi has emphasized the importance of self-sufficiency in food productions, stressing that the rice bowls of the Chinese people must always be held firmly in our own hand and filled mainly with Chinese grain. However, China has experienced alarming levels of farmland loss, with total arable land decreasing from 334 million acres in 2013 to 316 million acres in 2019. Over one-third of the remaining arable land also suffers from degradation, acidification, and salinization. The annual net increase of arable land has risen significantly. In between 2009 and 2019, China lost farmland equivalent to the size of South Carolina. This diminishing farmland also causes productivity to decline due to overcultivation and excessive fertilizer use. A significant cause of this deterioration has been land-intensive industrialization and urbanization, which has led to the expropriation of farmland for more lucrative development projects. It's reasonable to conclude that China will import more to start and acquire whatever foreign land they can to farm for their benefit next. The same could be said for many other countries as well. We may likely see an increase in farmland purchases from any of the many Western countries that have been suffering from extreme weather, prolonged droughts, overused land, and struggling to feed their own growing hungry populations. I'm going to let you know that the United States government is at least aware of this. In recent years, several U.S. states have enacted regulations to restrict or ban the purchase of farmland by foreign entities, especially from countries considered hostile to the United States. In 2023, Arkansas passed a law banning certain foreign entities from owning farmland and ordered a Chinese seed company to divest its land. Florida enacted Senate Bill 264 to restrict foreign ownership of real property, though it is currently facing legal challenges. Mississippi has long-standing provisions restricting land ownership by non-resident aliens and is considering further tightening these laws. These measures have been reactive instead of proactive, and it would be prudent for the government to approach our country's farmland as a natural resource that needs protection. At least 5 countries explicitly forbid foreign ownership of land, and that's China, Indonesia, Nigeria, the Philippines, and Thailand. And additionally, many other countries have various restrictions on foreign land ownership, allowing it only under specific conditions. And these measures are often implemented to protect national security and maintain affordable land prices for the local citizens. However, until the government steps in and meaningfully and proactively, this may become more problematic in the future. And there is a very real possibility that it could rise to the level where our food supply suffers. And this may be especially true following any large-scale crop failures or natural disasters. In the meantime, there seem to be enough reactive measures and discussions in the halls of government that I think foreign investors in the United States farmland will be limited. We're going to continue to watch it closely for you. What it means to you. I return to your food supply when researching stories like this and others, and agriculture around the world is cycling between boom and bust. Science is having difficulty keeping up with the strains that can endure the environmental fluctuations of temperature in extreme weather like heat domes and sudden frosts. And the world hoards and wages war over fossil fuel supplies, but a day may come soon when the wars are being waged over the caloric energy supply. That's literally what much of the world is seeing right now as Russia seeks to control the breadbasket region of Europe by dominating Ukraine. These potential disruptions of the food supply are not likely to get any better or resolve themselves or work themselves out in the future. On the contrary, things like these become more common as extreme weather and hungry populations challenge the global caloric energy supply. Your best insulation from spikes in price, potential shortages, or complete food supply disruptions is to prepare your own food supply. It should be the cornerstone of your prepping. It should be the very first thing that you start with when you build your self-sufficiency and lessen your dependence on the government stepping in to save you. Food security begins with building your food storage. If you only have 3 days of food, you also pray that the government's going to swoop in and rescue you after disaster. You're more secure if you follow our recommendations on this channel and begin by starting out with a 3-week food supply as your starting point. You can endure prolonged disasters or significant disruptions to your food supply with that foundation. And if you regularly consume, cook, and replenish your stored food supply, you're going to realize it is also a hedge against inflation, shrinkflation, and price spikes. You're going to gain more of this economic benefit once you start growing, preparing, and preserving even a fraction of your own food. Now, I don't want to just tell you the problem on this channel. I want to leave you with solutions. To that end, I'm going to link 2 videos here on the side of the screen that I think you should watch. right after this video. And again, I'll post the links to them in the comments and description section below. The first video is simply how to build a 3 weeks food supply. That's going to be the core to preparedness no matter where the future goes. And the second details another major potential problem with the wealthy buying of farmland and the problems stemming from that. If you want to dive deeper into our food supply and its potential future problems, you're going to definitely want to check out that video. As always, stay safe out there.